they were mentors without even knowing they're mentors. To me, a mentor doesn't choose to be a mentor. A mentor is someone that does all the things right all the time. And people notice that because the higher up you go, people are watching you. People are always watching, and they'll say, you know what, I want to be like that guy. He does everything right, or he tries to do everything right.
The show about learning what it takes to build a superior you, mentally, physically, and financially. Be sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel. And also check out BasuLifestyle.com to purchase merchandise to support the Basu lifestyle. People who don't know anything about you, your Chief Anthony Avillo, can you give a quick background of your career and then some of your accomplishments on the job and also off the job?
Okay, so I started in 1984 with the Weehawken Fire Department, which is where the Lincoln Tunnel is, if you don't know where that is. And in 1999, they merged the 5 fire departments into North Hudson Regional Fire and Rescue. So on January 10th, 1999, I was a Weehawken Battalion Chief. On January 11th, 1999, I was a North Hudson Battalion Chief. I retired there as a deputy. I did some time as the Provisional Chief of Department. It was an unbelievably great experience. Let's see. I also teach at New Jersey City University, which is now Kane, New Jersey City. Starting this semester, teaching for John Jay, which I'm really excited about. What else? What else did I do? I speak wherever people ask me to speak, and I still, I love the fire service. I'm still drinking the Kool-Aid, man. So just like you.
So I heard about you about 5-6 years ago. I got your Fireground Strategies book. That was the first time I ever heard of you. I read that book, and I'm on the job in Trenton. So Trenton and North Jersey are pretty similar in terms of we're pretty urban, densely populated. So when I read that book compared to some of the other books I was recommended, I really felt compelled to kind of get more into you and learn more about the strategies, because it really was a way we could actually do the job compared to some of the books which we really couldn't use. It would be read the books, but we're going to do it the street way. Where your book, it was, this is actually how we can do this and get it done right.
Yeah, it's interesting. I used to have a company called Study Group, and we used to, help people get promoted. I'm not sure. You're kind of young to have been in Study Group, but maybe. I think the Department of Personnel, the Civil Service, they don't use the book because of Study Group, which is really, we've kind of been out of business for about 7 years now, and they just recently turned it down again, from what I understand. So, what are you going to do?
So on your website, it says the pursuit of excellence. Don't let today be the best you'll ever be. So the whole premise behind the lifestyle that I'm a part of, it's called the Basu lifestyle. It stands for build a superior you. So it's all about deciding what you want mentally, physically, financially, and then building that life. So you became a firefighter, you become a chief, and you have a good life. You could live completely off of that. Why did you decide to keep going in terms of writing books, becoming a speaker, becoming a teacher, and continuing to develop yourself?
I started working at fire academies. I started with the Bergen County Fire Academy, and eventually I was the director of the Monmouth County Fire Academy. So I was kind of in the company of some of the people that were, involved with fire engineering and involved with speaking and writing articles and things like that. And my mentor was a guy named Ed Flood, who we wrote the Full Contact Leadership book together. And he always pushed me, to be the best that I could be. And I remember I got on the job October 1, 1984, and I already knew him. I knew him from the gym. But when I walked in the door, he said to me, if you leave here tomorrow after 24 hours and this place isn't just a little bit better because you were there, then you didn't do your job. And I believed it then. I believe it now. He was, I'm not big on the word mentor, but he's as close to a mentor as I ever had. He pushed me and believed in me more than I probably believed in myself.
Now, did you have any other mentors over your career, or was he kind of like the main one that had the biggest impact on you?
He definitely had the biggest impact on me, for sure. But, I got to meet a lot of the people who I read their books, and they were mentors without even knowing they're mentors. To me, a mentor doesn't choose to be a mentor. A mentor is someone that does all the things right all the time. And people notice that because the higher up you go, people are watching you. People are always watching, and they'll say, you know what, I want to be like that guy. He does everything right, or he tries to do everything right, And some of the people in my career were not necessarily firefighters. Gerald Ubig was the first chief of operations I had in Weehawken, and a big influence, who allowed Chief Flood to take that department from a department that had napped for 30 years into a cutting edge, solid 21st century fire department. But my dad, of course, my dad died when I was 16, so he was always someone that has influenced me. A lot of my coaches, I played football at North Bergen, and I coached there as well. So I had a ton of great coaches there: Vincent Ascoli, Saudi Satissimo, Bob Masella, all just taught me to expect excellence. And the only way you're going to expect excellence is if you worked hard at excellence. At North Bergen, I think my 4 years, we lost one game on a broken play. My senior year, we were number one in the state. So I felt that those people pushed me forward into where I am today. And of course, I have a second degree black belt in my Sabamim, Jay Lally also. It sort of molded me into who I am. It's kind of, listen, there's lots of bad influences out there too. That's not to say, you have to balance all those things,
Do you think you get shaped more by bad leaders or good leaders?
I think both. I think sometimes someone said to me, and it was somebody from FDNY that said it, and it might have been Vigiano, that said, learn as much as you can from the people who are not good, because you will learn what not to do, which will lead you into what you should be doing. And I believe Vigiano said that. He was a chief in New York. But yeah, I think you learn from both, and sometimes you learn more from the bad ones.
True. You learn what you don't want to do. You learn who you don't want to be. And then sometimes you're even the bad one. I feel like there's been experiences that I've done something that afterwards you kind of think about and you're like, next time I should handle it this way. Now, do you have anything that you could reflect on that it was like you handled a situation and then after you're like, wow, I really should have done this, and this instead?
I just was talking to someone from Florida who's writing a book, and I gave him a bunch of things that where I could have done better, if that's a way to go. There was one of the incidents that really sticks in my head. We were closing houses and browning out houses one summer, and a lot was going on, and the union and the department and the administration were really butting heads, and we, the mayors, try and work for one mayor. We work for five, and we cover in the 5 cities up there. And the union came out with something in the paper, and the mayors took away our shopping privileges. They said, you can't shop. Stay in the firehouse unless you're training or, et cetera. And it was kind of it was tit for tat type of stuff, and something came down. I don't remember exactly what it was, but I happened to be in the chief's office with Chief McEldowney, who took over from Chief Flood, and the battalion chiefs were there. I think one of the directors were there, and something came down that was just like, and it was coming down, and we had to, he told us, and I said, you know what, Chief, don't you ever stick up for us? And he was a very good friend of mine, and I heard him, and he said to me, I stick up more. This meeting is over, and you're all dismissed. And I was trying to apologize, and he said, I said you're dismissed. So I called him at home, and he said, I will see you in the office Monday at 9:00. So I got into his office, and he said, you know what? I could bring you up on charge of insubordination. I could take you off the line. I can do all those things. He said, but I'm not going to, because you're too valuable to this department. He says, but I want to teach you a lesson. You know what your job is? Your job is to make me happy. My job is to make the directors happy. Their job is to make the mayors happy. The battalions need to make you happy. The captains make them happy, and the firefighters make them happy. That's this job in a nutshell. And what I realized was he was not only protecting his position and the job, but he was protecting my position as well and the entire job. Because here's the thing, I let emotion and ego get in the way. Emotion and ego can never exist in the same place as leadership and rank. It can't. It will always make you make bad decisions. When your ego gets involved, when your emotion gets involved, things go in a bad direction. And everybody knows emotional driven firefighters. Everybody knows big ego people. But I learned a really, really big lesson there. And I was operating from a childish ego. And he was operating from an adult ego. And if you know anything about egos, child, adult, and parent, like, we could talk all day on interpersonal relationships with company officers and battalion chiefs and firefighters. And really one of the biggest size ups you'll ever do is, what ego state is this guy operating from? If he's not operating as an adult, I got to bring him to adult, or, well, I got to bring him to adult, but I can't go to his place. If he's being a parent and this and this and this, if I get my ego and my emotion involved, I'm going to be doing this and this and this. And then again, nothing solved. Nothing solves unless you're in the adult state, or if you use because I said so leadership, which is, that's an ego type leadership. So I learned a lot from a lot of different people, and hopefully it made me a better officer.
How do people begin to get over their ego in terms of realizing that their ego's holding them back or getting in the way of them being a good leader? Just by inner realization, assessing things after. That's kind of the way I kind of slowly figured it out. But obviously, we all still have work to do.
Take the full contact leadership course. No, I think what happens is sometimes when your ego gets involved, you either hurt someone who was a good soldier for you, or you're going up against someone who is higher than you in the chain, and has the ability to make your day miserable. Has the ability. I got 3 bugles on here, but he's got 5. He can crush my bugles. Just like me, I got 3 bugles here, and you're a captain. You got 2, 2 bars. Listen, I can make your day a lot worse than you can make mine. Understanding that, I think helps you to figure out, when you can't win going up because you're being an idiot, or when you hurt someone going down on the down end, and that might have been one of your best players. So again, the egos and emotions get involved, and you have to kind of keep those in check, which I don't always do a great job of that, and I try to all the time, but it doesn't always work. And then you regret.
I think as long as you regret, it's a good sign, because then you can talk about it after.
And you learn
from it. Where if you just pretend it never happened and you do the same thing again and again and again, then that's when you kind of have a problem, and people aren't going to follow you or want you to lead them.
Yeah, listen, if your ego is so big that you can't apologize, then you're not human. You got to be a little human sometimes. You got to have empathy and that sort of thing. And listen, I've been guilty of not having those things, and listen, at the end of the day, in the fire service, our job is to be in service and ready. And anything that is going to affect that, it's my job to ensure we're in service ready. So, I'm not worried about feelings. I'm worried about us getting out the door. And if I could do it in a productive way, get what I need to get done for the department. Because listen, social loyalty, organizational loyalty, they do this, but you can't have one like that and one like that, because it just doesn't work in the business, So I learned a lot. I made a lot of mistakes, but I learned a lot.
Learned a lot from those mistakes.
Yes, I learned a lot from Chief Flood. I know you said you read the Full Contact Leadership book. I learned a lot from him. Unbelievable, man. He passed away like 6 years ago.
Oh, sorry to hear that.
Yeah.
I didn't know that he passed away.
Yeah. Well, when he retired, I said, listen, I've been blessed to be exposed to a ton of people in this business, in the fire service, that great leaders, a lot of not so great leaders who think they're great leaders. I have never in my career come up or been exposed to anyone who understood the job like Flood. No one, not even close. And that says a lot about him, and he moved me through. And when he retired, I said, you need to write a book. You need to write a book about leadership, all the things you've taught me. And he said, it's too much of a job. So I wrote it, and I wrote about 20 chapters. I gave it to him, and he got back to me about 6 months later, 3 months later, whatever. And he said, I don't know how people read your shit. You can't write. And he still wouldn't write it. But then he asked me about who are the gurus of leadership today. And some of them were actually our students in study group. And he said, wow. And that sort of motivated him we wrote for a year and a half. He took my stuff, his stuff, threw most of my stuff out, but kept some of it. And we molded it. And that became the book. And quite honestly, I've done 4 editions of Fireground Strategies, but Full Contact Leadership is the cherry. It's the cherry on the top of the sundae, because it got his voice out.
So what is Full Contact Leadership in like a nutshell?
Full Contact Leadership is let's see if I can remember the slide. Never-ending, self-initiated, self-motivated pursuit of excellence. It's a 24/7 thing. It's an all-the-time thing. It moves you to be the best officer you can, and full contact means you are not a keyboard commander. You're not stuck in your office. You are engaged in every facet of the operation that you either have influence over or you are being influenced by. And you're always looking to do things right. Not necessarily the right thing, because the right thing is not always doing things right. But they mesh a little bit sometimes.
It's still what you believe is the right thing. You know what I mean? According to either the organization or I think you can't really go wrong if you're trying to do the right thing and that you can sleep and live with if you're, a good person.
Yeah, I agree with you. Listen, again, that social and organizational loyalty, sometimes, you have to bend a little bit and sway a little bit. But, I think over time, listen, if one of the things that I felt was one of the best things I ever heard was the people that worked for me, very few people didn't like me. Very few people didn't think that I was there for them. And I never heard these things. These things were told to people around me, my brother and things like that. And and they told me these things. So I figured, through trial and error, mostly error, I kind of somehow, with the good influences, wound up on a good track, and I think that to me was the most important thing, that people remember that you were fair, and you moved people forward,
I'm all about getting comfortable being uncomfortable. So right from your book, you wrote, for most people, conflict, confrontation, and resolution tend to cause discomfort, yet you learn to embrace it. So can we talk about how you made that progression? How you got used to being comfortable addressing serious issues or things that you felt needed to be addressed?
Well, I think what happens is you have to be comfortable with being uncomfortable. That's the first thing. You have to almost have an acceptable discomfort. There's comfort and there's discomfort. You need to have an acceptable discomfort. Your light has to be yellow almost all the time, because the people with comfort in green, by the time it gets to red, they're already, they already missed the boat, So I think you have to, as an officer, have to have that little bit of acceptable discomfort. And when it starts to moving to unacceptable discomfort, you have to be able to address it. But the other end you're talking about is, as well as you will always be challenged with conflict, confrontation, and conflict, confrontation, and challenge, right? Those are the 3 C's. Your job is to get resolution as an officer. Getting resolution will create a lot of confidence for you, because that creates the 4th C. Resolution creates the 4th C. But you have to be willing to attempt to get that resolution. Now, I can't tell you how many times I got it wrong, and most people will get it wrong. But if you have a good support system, if you have lateral offices, if you have some mentors that, and there's that word again, mentors that you can talk to and things like that, the thing is, if you don't try to get resolution, you're never going to grow as an officer. You will get it wrong a lot of the time. And I think that's part of the growth, but in order to get it right, to get resolution, first of all, you have to subjugate your ego. And it requires a lot of courage, because you are, dealing with conflict and challenge and controversy. And these are things that, as an officer, if you can't do those things, and listen, you need to strive to do those things better. But if you can't do those things, if you're not willing to do those things, take these things off. Because you know what they stand for? They stand for conflict, challenge, and controversy. And they're unpopularity magnets a lot of the times. And if you're not willing to do, the department put those on you so that, because they believe that you're going to handle those situations. If you can't, what are you there for? So that's that's like my philosophy on that. And, and again, these are a lot of floodisms, that I throw out there because they're so ingrained in my head.
Well, he had that big of an impact on you that it lasts.
Not just me, all over the state. When we were study group, there were no other companies out there. Originally, it was Flood and a guy named Mike Hearn, who was a battalion in North Hudson, and Mike Turpak, if you know who he is, from Jersey City. Then Mike Turpak, something went on. I didn't know. I was a student at the time. Turpak left. He created promotional prep, but they took a little while to get sort of traction, and we were the only game in town. So if you look at the chief offices in New Jersey right now, of career departments, I'm going to say 75% of them, and that might be a low number, was study group students.
Now, how long ago are you talking about, though? Because they might all be retired by now.
We started the company in 1994.
Okay.
And we finished up around maybe 2014, 2016, somewhere around there. But you look like Lenny Carmichael. Lenny Carmichael went through the entire gamut with us, and Scotty Evans from Atlantic City, and everybody from North Hudson to Bayonne to Jersey City, all study group students. So everybody had that influence of Chief Flood, and Chief Flood was a pull no punches guy, So you paid us from study group to tell you what you were doing wrong. And, and I don't care about your ego. We're going to tell you exactly what you're doing wrong, and it's going to make you a better officer, and I think that across the state, that influence of study group it made great officers out there. That's one of the things I'm most proud of is what we did with study group across New Jersey.
Do you think that your teaching now has as big of an influence possible? How you go around and give your classes, seminars, and still writing books because you're continuing to have an impact?
I hope so. I talk with, I don't know if you know who Mike Nasta is. He was a deputy in Newark, a very good friend of mine. And we always talk about when is the wave going to hit the beach? He's involved a lot with fire engineering and FDIC, and so am I. But I think, at some point it's going to wane because I'm 65 years old now. But here's the other thing. There aren't a lot of people with urban command experience like some of the guys that are my age, because the fires have sort of dropped down. And, I had a lot of experience in Weehawken. We didn't get a lot of fires. Most of my jobs were out of town, where I was able to sort of become a division commander and run part of the job, which helped me grow. But when we came to North Hudson, I was, the incident commander in 5 different towns, and we got so much work, and I gained so much experience that, you can't, but not, I think it's irresponsible not to pass that stuff on,
Well, also, society in general, we're talking about comfort and discomfort. Society in general has gotten very comfortable with everything. We have so many modern essentials that you don't have to leave your house to get food, water, anything. So then I feel like, especially after reading the Leadership Game book that you sent me,
Hmm.
that book, comparing our problems now to the problems that they were dealing with back then, it's totally different. I mean,
Hmm.
that was just insane. Some of the stories within that
Yeah.
book. Today's problems are guys are more lazy and showing up and things like that.
Hmm.
Where you had like drunks
Hmm.
and fights and you actually dealt with some serious shit. Where now everything's pretty
Hmm.
comfortable.
Well, I didn't necessarily deal with those things. That was a New York thing. But you know what? Let me just say this. You don't think that stuff's still happening somewhere? Not quite to
I'd
the
agree it's
extent.
still happening, but
Not
the
quite to the
extent of it,
extent. But
it's
it's still happening. You know, listen, a guy got hit with a chair on New Year's Eve only a few years back because they were drinking in a Korea fire department, you know, so they had brought a stripper into the firehouse and she slid the pole, not in that one, it's a different situation, slid the pole and broke her ankle and they hush the whole thing. And of course they got caught, you know, so I still think it's happening a little bit, but you're right. There's a different animal out there now in the fire service, sort of in some of the new generation. But they said the same thing about us coming in. What are we going to do with these young guys? You know, they said the same thing. So I quite honestly, I don't buy it. I think it's a cop out for an officer. I think if you're an officer and your comfort zone, what we talked about on discomfort and all that stuff. Listen, my job is to do the job of make sure the department is running properly. And if you're making me uncomfortable, I'm going to make you more uncomfortable. And I don't want to do that. That's not where I'm at. That's not what I want to do. But don't push me there. You know, don't push me there. But I think that today's firefighters are a product of their officers. And if the officers and the chiefs and the department are not, you know, running with the same game as they were, you know, look, I get it. The teaching is different as well, you know, and there's a lot of different things going on out there that are new and everything else. But this is a problem, right? The thumb athletes, right? That, you know, yeah, there are definite issues. But when you talk about department structure and discipline and everything else, I don't think it should have changed. You know, I just don't. And if I was still on the job, I don't think I would accept that.
how do you make a lasting impact on a department, or even if you're in like corporate, on your actual thing you're a part of? So fire department wise, it's easier to kind of answer. So
Mhm.
within a fire department, how do you make lasting change? You've been retired 10 years that actually lasts longer than you, like as if a legacy,
Mhm.
or that everything keeps running smoothly. Because say you make all of these changes, you do all these great things, and the next person comes in, and 10 years from now, nobody knows you, nobody even
Mhm.
still operates, you know what I mean, is still
Yeah.
getting the job done right.
Well, what was really interesting is they brought me in last September to do 4 days of classes on legacy multiple dwellings because they have a lot of new guys, and and it was interesting that everybody I didn't know everybody, but they knew who I was, and I wrote a lot of the SOPs. I think in order to do, I don't want to use the word remembered. In order to leave your mark, I think you have to be involved in the department in every way, shape, and form. I think you have to, you know, have that mantra of don't let today be the best you'll ever be, and move your people forward, and don't leave. Try not to leave anybody behind as you're moving forward. You know, be the champion, be the cheerleader, bring those people forward with you. You know, um, I think that you have to look back at yourself and what made you the way you are. Maybe you have to strive to try and make people believe in that sort of mantra and philosophy. You know, that look. You know what? You could walk through the door today and not walk out that door tomorrow. This job can kill you. You might not make it home. Nobody ever goes to work thinking they're going to get hurt or killed, but it happens all too often. And why does it happen? For a lot of different reasons, but a lot of them have to do with some of the things we're just talking about here. You know, the just just not maintaining your in service and ready status, and staying up with the job, and being, listen, being the best you can be at the job, and I think that's in any job, any job I worked at, I tried to do those things, where learn the job of your superior, make sure you know the job of your subordinates, and that way you can help them and you can help them, while you're trying to take their jobs, right? So yeah, I think today's firefighter is smarter in a lot of different ways, but I also think from the intellectual standpoint and the technological standpoint, but I don't think they have the same smarts as far as hands-on gadgets, strength. I think you have a lot of guys that are into the job and are into working out, but I look at it now sometimes, and I, as the director of the fire academy, I would see kids that they couldn't raise a ground ladder, they couldn't crawl around the wheel, they're out of shape. But again, you can get anybody in shape. That's an internal thing, you got to put yourself in that position. So,
but you can get them into shape. But look at guys who come out of the academy and then within a year or two, they're 20 pounds up. I mean, yeah. I guess you have to impact the people more than like set the example and lead the people, and then hope that those people make an impact on the next people within, because you're not going to go in there and change every single policy and everybody's going to just jump on board, and then you're going to leave and it's just going to keep running smooth.
No, you gotta, if you kind of can try and leave that legacy, maybe there will be people that continue doing that. One of the things I remember with Flood was we had a pretty structured day, and part of our day before dinner was working out. We would work out together, and the company and we would work out. We would go and we would do those things, and I thought it brought us together. I think one of the problems in the fire service today is one, there's no communal bunk rooms anymore. It's everybody's got their cubicle. Two, everybody's on their phone. So nobody, and sometimes they don't even share meals together, So if I had to fix three things, that would be it right there. Put the phones down, share your meals, and what was the third thing I said? I don't even remember.
The bunks. You want everybody to sleep together.
Well, yeah. I think that what it does is the phones not eating together and the non-communal bunk rooms. I think that fosters a separation policy when we need to be a team. We need to be cohesive. The kitchen table is a sacred place. So is the training ground. And I think those things have to sort of be reinforced, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, I can tell just by talking to you that Chief Flood had a massive influence on you, probably in your personal life, because you became friends after you wrote a book together. So I think that it seems like people to people is more of the way to go than structure and just thinking that top down on the boss, I can dump whatever I want and everybody's going to follow and everything's going to become better, isn't really helpful.
No, I think as a boss, you got to involve everybody. Decision's ultimately yours, but, participative leadership is so much, has to be so much a part of the fire department, because if you're not developing the people below you, then you're not adding to the strength of the department, and you're not ensuring the department's future. You're going to allow that department's future to sort of just fade away. I think you need to bring those people forward with you as you go, and that requires a lot of enthusiasm, because you can't make people do anything. How do you motivate somebody? You can't motivate anybody. All you can do is let them know how it's going to benefit them, and if they can see that, then they motivate themselves to reach that goal.
Now, goal-wise, how did you set goals in terms of? So you're a fire chief, and then you're writing multiple books. You're a teacher. How did you decide that you were going to do these things, even though you could fail at them? you know, a lot of people are going to give up because they feel like they're going to fail, where you decide, you know what, I'm still going to do this. And I'm sure you have failures that nobody knows about.
Oh God, yeah. um, I've always been really goal oriented, in my life. I think maybe that came from my dad, my coaches, my mom, who's still alive today. She's 89, she'll be 89. Um, I always tried to set goals for myself. Like, right now, my girlfriend's brother, he just passed 500 days of 100 push-ups a day, and he's like 63. And he told me about it. Now I'm at day 407.
Okay.
But I also I'm at day 44 of 10,000 steps a day. So those are goals for me. Goals. When they're going to end, I don't know. It was supposed to be 100-day, 1 year for the push-ups, and at 365 days. Well, how do I stop? How do you stop? So I always like kind of set goals, and I don't know. I feel like I've been very fortunate. Sometimes things sort of find me, and then I wind up getting involved in it, and I help them move forward, which helps me move forward, so I don't know. I've had some very good people influence my life, and I think that has taught me a real lot about, finding out who you are, and being the best person you can be. And listen, I'm not the best person. I stink at most things, but listen, golf, forget it.
How long
there's,
you been golfing?
There's a goal. About 20 years, I still can't get out of the tee box. I suck, man. I suck, but I love it. I have fun. It's a good time.
I said I'd get into that when I retire, because I'm like, I don't have time for it now. I know I'm going to suck. At least I'll just suck later when I'm retired. Have something to be part of.
Well, you know what? I was a fullback and a linebacker, so I do everything like a fullback. So like I golf like a fullback. I was a firefighter like a fullback. I dance like a fullback. It's it's just who I am. But even into I'm 65 now. Even into retirement, you gotta set goals. You gotta move yourself forward. And sometimes it's hard to see that horizon, but I always find that it shows itself if you're really looking for it.
I like that.
I just made that up.
Yeah. I had to stop for a second. I like that, because like people don't understand the power of momentum, like you've been saying about your steps. And if you just keep building momentum, it's like a snowball. It's just going to keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And obviously that can go the total opposite way. If you have a really bad habit that you keep doing every single day, it's just going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. Same thing with a problem. If you have a member of your department that is a problem, and you just let that problem go, then it becomes this massive problem.
Well, I always believe in handling things at the incipient phase. That's something I learned from flood. You have the stages of fire, right? Incipient phase, very easy to handle it. But if you ignore it, then it goes into growth. It goes into flashover. It goes into free burning. You need more stuff. You need more time. You need more people. More injury happens to bring it back. It's like you get off the rig, and one guy's not wearing his chin strap, and he don't have his hood on around his neck. You don't say nothing. The next time there's two guys doing it. A third time is a guy with a cowboy hat and swim fins. And so you let it go, and that's just a very small, simple example. You let that go, and now to bring it back creates more time. That there's more involved in it. So I think you have to be on your game all the time. Doesn't always happen that way, but I think you do. And I think when people know that you are, they generally understand why, especially if you can explain it, and then they begin to move forward. I'm really proud of many of the firefighters and officers that came through my shift. And in North Hudson right now, of the 4 deputies that are on the line, 3 of them came from my shift. 3 of them were my guys. So, I'm really, and the only one that's not actually has my old shift. So, I feel real good about that.
The final question we try to ask everybody is, what was your Basu moment? And a Basu moment is the moment you decided that you were going to set goals and you were going to go after everything you wanted in life and not stop, continue to work towards it. So what was your kind of Basu moment in your life?
Now, I think now this is going back. I coached football. I played football for North Bergen, which was a football factory. And my senior year, we had just won the state championship as on my junior year, beat Snyder, who had Walker Lee Ashley at the time who went to the NFL. And I knew that we were going to be ranked high going into the season coming forward. And we weren't losing a lot of guys. And I said, you know what? We have to repeat. And that team went 9-1-1. And the one loss was on a tipped pass, and the tie was on a fumbled snap on a punt. And so they could have gone undefeated too. And they were a better team than we were. But that year, I remember going into the locker room in the summer when we were working out and just putting all kinds of stuff on the walls. And, and our goal was to be number one. Our goal was to go undefeated, and pushed it and pushed it and pushed it and pushed it. And to the point of being a pain in the ass. And, but I had a lot of other guys that bought into that, and we set that goal. And when the preseason rankings came out, we were number 2. And Westfield was number 1 because they were number 1 the year before. And the first game, we wound up winning. We beat Brick, and they lost. And it was a huge win for us. And they lost, and we jumped into number 1, and we stayed there the whole year. And we had some games where, we almost lost a couple of games. We were only as good as we had to be. That's what one of the coaches who said when we played. He goes, playing North Bergen's like anticipating a hangover. You know what you're going to get. You just don't know how to stop it. And we just had this goal, and we wound up playing in Giant Stadium twice that year, and we won the state championship. And for me, that was, I think the lesson I learned there was, you can do anything that you want, if you want to do it. And that's one of the things that Coach Askley said. In this life, you can do anything you want if you're willing to do the work. And we did the work. Sometimes we didn't, but sometimes you got lucky a little bit, right? But we did do the work, and it paid off. And I think it catapulted everybody on that team, because no one on that team didn't do well in life. It was amazing. I'm still very good friends with all of those guys, and nobody didn't do well. So that was a goal that I set. That it was a team goal, but it was a big goal for me.
Well, it shows you how important being a part of a team growing up is.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like being a part of competitive sports, being a group, winning.
Yeah. Well, fire department. I think I wrote an article for Fire Engineering. It was called "Groomed on the Gridiron," and it compares firefighting and football. And I think it's online. You can find it. And it was all about the parallels, but all about. And I interviewed a whole bunch of guys from North Bergen that played, that worked for North Hudson, and the interview. It was pretty cool. It was pretty cool. It was a really cool article. And I sent it to Fire Engineering. I said, maybe you can use this, and they did publish it.
Nice.
And Paul Combs wrote a cartoon for it. Which was pretty cool. Yeah, which I thought was really, really cool. But going back, I'm thinking that, that was one. Becoming a black belt was another. It took me a long time to get there. Graduating college, it took me 28 years and 177 credits. Then I was stupid enough to get my master's degree. So. Yeah, I think you have to set goals, and sometimes you're going to stumble, but you should never lose sight of the horizon.